Hi, I'm John,
And I'm Paul.
and this is the Minute Podcast.
If you give a mouse a cookie, I'm pretty sure he'd write a book. But give us 60 seconds of footage and we'll tell you where to look. With a concept this simplistic, it's hard to say if it'll last. But give us just a minute and we'll give you a podcast. The Minute Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Minute Podcast. As you probably know by now, this is the weekly show where John and I discuss a listener-provided minute of content from a movie or TV show or somewhere weird on the internet and try to orient ourselves and figure out what's happening. John, what are we watching today?
This week we're watching a clip, Kevin Spencer, Drunken Welfare Man versus Evil, and we're starting at minute 19 and 50 seconds. The clip's going to be on the show description.
Excellent, and today's episode is brought to you by the Tourism Board of Burtonsville, Maryland, whose annual Burtonsville Day celebrates its founder, Isaac Burton. Includes a number of events throughout town, including petting zoos, various games, and even a parade. Visit burtonsville.com/Minute Podcast for more information.
I kind of want that to be a thing. How much do you think it would for us to get burtonsville.com?
Oh, I thought you meant how much would we have to pay them to sponsor the podcast.
Oh, is there a Burtonsville, Maryland?
There is a Burtonsville, Maryland, whose annual Burtonsville Day celebrates its founders, Isaac Burton. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're doing this weekend.
Going to Burtonsville?
Going to Burtonsville.
Let's go to Burtonsville. All right.
I wish I could go to Burtonsville right now.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's talk about our current level of understanding of what it is we're watching, Paul.
Okay.
I'm personally of the opinion that I know nothing about what we're watching right now.
I'm pretty confident I have no idea what's going on, and I love it.
I have a vague, maybe I knew something like this existed before, but I'm fairly certain I have never watched or seen any part of this.
No, I agree. To me, it's very reminiscent of the kind of animation I saw in the early to late 2000s. It was just the way things looked on the internet at the time, but I have no idea what's going on.
I think this is okay. We can get into that later. But anyway, so a chronological review of what happened.
John, I don't want to interrupt, but I think this could be a great opportunity for us to do a reading of the script from the minute. I know we usually don't.
Yeah, I know we don't.
But I think in this particular case, it could be really,
especially for
really
this
great.
clip.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start this off.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing superhero guy. You, Paul, you're going to be the narrator.
Okay.
I'm going to be a duck person. You're going to be a narrator again.
I like it. I'm
going to be Pinky, the I assume alligator. You're also going to be a thought bubble.
Sure. Yep.
I'm going to be Pinky again, then narrator, then Pinky.
Okay, and just to set the scene a little bit, we open onto what appears to be a poorly dressed superhero, probably in a bar, just a real, frame on of him, and it's animated, so it's a cartoon.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's God. I hope it's a cartoon.
Ooh, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. No, this would be unsavorable. All right. So, set the scene. Like a bad habit.
Kevin had just finished constructing the altar of the dead out of human bones. That's when he realized that he'd made a big mistake. He picked up the wrong book when he left the house, so instead of making an altar to raise the dead, he accidentally constructed a bunk bed from an old furniture catalogue. As if that wasn't bad enough. All the shoveling, he had opened up the scab he'd cut into his hand.
What have you done, moron? Tap this goose's chicken shit out of here.
Kevin, surprised, the ghost of his former pet Pinky appeared, but he was sure different.
Hello, Kevin. I am Pinky. I have become an angel of the underworld.
Thought bubble. Thumbs up. Righteous retribution.
First we must gather together all the immoral and wicked and turn them into the legion of the damned, and then maybe we'll go for some go-kart racing. How's that sound, kid?
Kevin said Pinky was the coolest friend he'd ever had, and told him all the immoral and wicked people were with his parents at the big swingers party downtown. Scene. That's great. Excellent. Perfectly captures everything that happened. I think we can end the episode.
Yep. All right.
Okay, well.
So thank you, Robert.
Yeah, it's great. Great.
I think this is the second time we've made this joke in a row.
Oh, well, we should pace it out. So instead of ending the episode now, let's talk about it. Let's
continue with an episode.
Okay.
And unlike that last one we just did. So, yeah.
Good. That way the joke's different each time.
Yep.
So
different jokes each podcast. That's our goal here, Paul.
Okay. So in case it wasn't clear to the listener what was really happening during that, maybe we should do a quick play-by-play and talk through it a little bit, just real quick.
Okay, just real quick. Okay, so it starts off with a non sequitur. Like, the clip seems to start at this superhero guy, and then immediately cuts to Kevin, who is hammering what looks like a bone structure.
Yes. Kevin has accidentally built some sort of altar to the dead, which then he's realized he made a mistake. So I guess he's intentionally building an altar to the dead.
Yes? Like, I don't understand. He seems to have... I don't know. That's what's kind of confusing about the duck person, who... I don't know if this is a normal character. I don't know. I kind of like the design of the duck person.
So it's horrifying, but I like it.
It is horrifying. He looks like a chain-smoking duck person, I think is the best way to put that. Anyway, so... I think one of the things we really need to sell here is that the animation is highly limited. Like, it is like Kevin's arm is up, raised. Kevin's arm is like down, hammering the bone structure, the bone bed. Up again, down, up again, and that's like what the narrator is basically reading over. Another thing I'd like to address is that Kevin seems to have like an inhuman ability to build things based on images that he sees.
He has a power, yeah.
He does, because he seems to have built this bed not out of like a this old house sort of catalog instruction manual sort of thing. He built it just by looking at a furniture catalog, and he built a bunk bed made out of bones.
It raises some questions for me, really. Like, first, how did he mistake a furniture catalog for some sort of Necronomicon? And then, how do you build a bunk bed out of bones? It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, I know. I think, is this what this show is about? I think is a valid question that we can put in here. Is he like a subversive Bob the Builder sort of thing?
I was thinking more of a Canadian Home Improvement. In case you couldn't tell, that was my Canadian accent I was doing earlier.
Totally not your Irish accent at all.
No, they're very different.
Distinctive, yes. And nationally sensitive, right?
It's the way I say hoose.
Hoose, yes.
It's the main difference.
Uh-huh.
No.
That's the main difference. So another thing that we notice is like Kevin doesn't seem to talk.
He doesn't talk. No, he's not a talker.
He does not talk. He has a thought bubble that it seems like the only like... Is that to us? Because like there's also I don't understand what the thought bubble is trying to do.
I think the thought bubble is his only thought during this segment. And I really love that his only thought is righteous retribution.
That's true. Righteous retribution.
Although that does raise some questions that why is it righteous retribution that they've raised his pet Pinky from the dead?
Well, he became an angel of the underworld, Paul.
True.
I don't know enough let's say of the canon to know whether or not that's evil or good. I don't know. I mean, I assume it means that he's like a devil character, Pinky, the resurrected alligator.
It's probably true. I mean, we can talk about that a little bit later, but going through the play-by-play again, the bunk bed that they build, just to go back to the bunk bed very quickly.
Yeah.
Is a very short bunk bed.
It is a very short bunk bed. It is 2 layers, and it comes to about his shoulders. So the top of the bed. So whoever's underneath is basically just like, they're going to be cozy.
It's weird. I don't know who could physically fit into that bunk bed. Could he and the bird person fit in there?
A very small child. A baby.
They could be baby bunk beds. I guess we don't know what he was building off of from the furniture catalog.
Well, it just seems to be vertically a baby bunk bed. It's for very
long babies though.
Yeah, or like a baby that can't hold its shape very well, so it needs to like spread out a bit.
I don't have a great image of that, but it sounds horrifying.
like an egg baby.
It's a really, really loose baby.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Okay, so they build this bunk bed. Excellent. And the goose runs away. Right?
Yes. Is it a goose? Or, I mean, like, I guess it's Canada, so I guess the joke is, like,
I'm assuming it's a goose. So
I thought it was a duck, but I guess it could be a goose.
Well, I've got a few questions about this, assuming it's a goose for the moment.
I mean, like, poutine. Am I right? Like,
yeah,
Canada goose. These are all things that I associate. I think this is a Canadian production.
I'm pretty sure based on my excellent Canadian accent earlier, but
that it's a Canadian production.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also that the recommender Robert himself had I was trying to think of something really cheesy and Canadian for you. I managed only one of those.
That's true. He did include that in his submission. Big thanks to Robert there. Is Robert himself a Canadian? Do we know?
I assume. I'm pretty sure. I don't think this is the first time that this has come up in conversation. I'm sorry, Robert. I didn't know you were Canadian. I guess I should apologize for all of those horribly jingoistic things I've said to you since then.
Those insensitive memes you've sent his way.
Yes. About Canada?
Canada? Yeah. Okay, but back to this goose though. I've two questions come to mind immediately. The first being, the goose runs away because he accidentally summons something using this pentagram.
Yes.
Right? But their intention of going there was to build an altar to the dead.
Do you think Kevin is part of some sort of like ancestry worship religion, and he went there to simply like honor the dead?
Well, that's the real question.
Instead of summoning it?
Because the goose is clearly surprised by the summoning, but what was the altar of the dead supposed to do then? So I guess your theory is as good as anything that I can think of, where it's just some sort of ancestry worship.
Could it be that they were maybe an evil is already out and about, out and about, and they have to they're trying to banish it, and then Kevin just makes it worse?
It's very possible. So that's one potential answer, and maybe we can come to that in the what we think the show is about portion. My other question about the goose, though, is he flies away at this point, right?
Yes.
Which, first of all, the animation is amazing.
Yes.
But the question for me is, does this mean the goose is loose?
I don't know how to answer that, Paul.
It's a joke for all the kids from 1987.
Yes, I'm not sure anybody wants me to answer that, Paul.
No, we don't need to. Moving on.
Okay. So I think that, yes, I do want to reiterate, the animation of the goose flying away is beautiful and
it's
majestic.
Amazing. Yep.
And so finally, like, it summons this giant alligator, and he offers, he says, basically, first we must go together, and all the immoral and wicked, and turn them into the Legion of the Damned, and then maybe we'll break for some go-kart racing.
Which is just great.
So basically, he's trying to pitch this to Kevin, who seems to be already on board, and then he just adds go-kart racing in the bottom there. So what I'm asking you, Paul, is this is a large alligator, right?
Yes.
This is like, what, 8 Kevins in size? It's
at least 8 Kevins, which is, as I understand it, the standard unit of measurement in Canada.
Yes, 8 Kevins.
Yep.
And so, like, about 8 Kevins worth of alligator here. How do we think that the go-kart is going to come into this later? Like, is Kevin just go-karting and then the alligator's just chilling out in, like, the little, pool in the middle of the go-karting rink?
When I first heard it, I imagined the alligator sitting inside of a, like, soft-top Mazda Miata going around the go-kart track. But I think you're probably right. If we're going to be realistic about it, Kevin's going to be in the go-kart, and the alligator's going to be hanging out.
I have to admit, I wish I had a very vivid idea of what a soft-top Mazda Miata looks like, because I feel like you just painted me a beautiful word picture, and I'm just too ignorant to appreciate it.
As far as I know, there was never a convertible or soft-top in particular Mazda Miata ever produced. If the Mazda Corporation would like to provide us with an image of what that could look like and sponsor the podcast, we'd love to see it.
Yes. We'd also like, royalties for all future
Soft-top Mazda
Miatas
Yes.
published, produced.
Or
produced
published.
I've owned a car for 2 weeks, Paul. I'm basically an expert at this point.
As is my understanding.
Yes.
So is go-kart racing very big in cemetery-adjacent Canadian communities?
Oh God, I hope so.
I mean, it would have to be.
I mean, I feel deprived knowing that there's go-karting out there right now that I'm not currently doing.
God, when was the last time you go-karted, John?
At least a decade.
At least
More.
a decade. Man.
I know. Isn't that brutal?
It's been so long.
And there's no putt-putts anywhere. Like, what kind of age do we live in, Paul?
What do the youth do for fun if not putt-putting and go-karting?
I mean, I just assume they cell phones.
Yeah, they cell phones though.
Minecraft
on the cell phones.
Yeah.
Can you play Minecraft on a cell phone? I think you can actually.
Oh yes, you can. You can now even play it on a 3DS, Paul.
Whoa, the future.
And the Minute Podcast for all of your latest breaking games news. So anyway,
yeah.
we've got Pinky, who is Kevin's coolest friend, which I have to admit, if I had a friend who is also an undead alligator, I'm sorry, Paul, but I feel like he would be my coolest friend.
Well, that's
of course,
definitely plausible.
I would never out you as a undead, talking alligator, Paul, but I'm just saying, theoretically, if you were, you would be my coolest friend.
Well, I think that's probably true, and in this case, it's pretty safe to assume that Pinky is Kevin's coolest friend because the alternative is some sort of bird person.
Yes. Who, like, is that an actual, like, is this like a bird, like a people animal world? Like did Pinky go to school with Kevin outside of this, or he was his pet, right? So he can have a pet alligator, but he has a friend goose? I don't.
It raises a lot of questions. I mean, what was Pinky before
that's something
he became...
for us to go into. Actually, we're pretty much at the end here, where, like, Kevin climbs aboard Pinky with the most intricate animation so far seen.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it is beautiful. And then they just walk off with Pinky going, "Ugh." Anyway, so now what I want to know is, who the fuck are all these people and what are they doing here, Paul? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, let's try to unpack it a little bit. So my theory for who they are and how they all got here is that Kevin is actually a pretty unwell child who has a goose for a friend, right?
Okay.
And he has gone to the cemetery with his goose friend, not to raise the dead, because clearly the goose is not down for that.
Yeah.
But because he wants to summon a vision of a particular person. My theory is that Kevin, who is such a troubled, child, I want to say maybe he's actually a teenager, is trying to raise a vision of his ex-girlfriend to figure out why things didn't quite work out.
Wow.
So he's
this is a mission of love.
Well, I think it probably is. You can just tell from Kevin's eyes that he's heartbroken from his girlfriend, who they ended on, pretty amicable terms, but, it didn't work out, and he wants to know why.
So for the readers who aren't watching this with us right now, Kevin's eyes are literally just perfectly like a 2x1 X to Y like ellipse,
but
with
those
a
pixels,
single
though,
black dot in the middle of it.
Those pixels emote more than most actors in this modern age.
Okay, that's possibly true. I who could say, Paul? Yeah. I'm not here to judge you.
Okay, so Goose Person, right, is scared off when this goes poorly, which, very reasonable. He didn't come here for a sort of summoning, but just a seance. And,
no.
Yeah?
I said, no, we're not going to summon the dead. I'm just here for a seance.
I mean, basically, Goose Person is a pretty reasonable guy.
This is where I draw the fucking line, man.
In the goose sand. So they accidentally summoned Pinky, who I believe died in a tragic go-kart accident. So later when he suggests that they should go go-karting in the middle, that's like a real fuck you. to Kevin, saying, "Hey, you want to go karting, you son of a?"
Do you think so? Pinky died in a go-karting accident.
Yep.
Do you think that this means that he's going to murder Kevin? Like, is that like a revenge plot?
I don't think he is. What I think's happening is Pinky was sent back. I think Pinky was a hamster, first of all, who fell out of the go-kart on the track, and that's how he died.
He's transmuted into a giant Kevin alligator.
I think so, because they say he looks a lot different. So my theory is he's sent back by the devil.
I assumed it was the glowing pentagram on his forehead that made him look different.
Nope, it was just the whole thing. He was a hamster, now he's a crocodile alligator.
I guess that's true.
No.
Or wait, in this scenario, Kevin's best friend could also be a human being before he died, or is that not an option anymore?
It's very plausible, but it's not what I think happened.
So this is more of a Hamtaro sort of story.
It's exactly a Hamtaro story. Hashtag Hamtaro. Tweet that at us with your favorite Hamtaro quotes. Yes, are there quotes to Hamtaro?
I think there is language in Hamtaro. I have a feeling most of it's in Japanese, so that's going to be tricky. But
we'll still accept your
translate.
Tweets. Yeah, true. Okay, but back to my theory. Kevin comes back, sent back. No. Kevin was here. Pinky was sent back by the devil in order to try to take over this small cemetery-adjacent town in Canada.
Okay.
He has taken Kevin under his how would you say it? He's under his control.
Under his flippers?
Under his flippers. Anyway, Kevin is now a mental slave to Pinky. Kevin's clearly not a strong character.
No,
not a lot of independent initiative.
You can see that in his facial expression.
You really can. His eyes are very expressive, but the rest of the face is just dead.
Sure.
So they're trying to find some other weak-willed people that they can pull together to take over the town. So naturally, they go to the swingers party, which Kevin, for some reason, knew his parents were there, which makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's information no kid needs to know.
They shouldn't know it. But then, so Pinky and Kevin get their sort of horde of shambling, low-moral people together, only to be stopped by the titular drunken welfare man, which is who I think we met in second number 1.
Okay, so drunken welfare man is the guy who says at the very top of the minute, he says, top of the minute, like a bad habit.
True. Yes. So I think in the very end, they have a comical showdown whereby Kevin is, I want to say, tricked into siding with the drunken welfare man over Pinky.
All right.
And that's how it ends. That's my theory. John, what the heck do you think is going on here?
Okay, so I think Kevin's an ass. I think he's a jerk, and I think he lured his duck friend into that place to feed him to the summoned Pinky.
Ooh,
I think Pinky was always an alligator. I assume because there's alligators all over Canada. And
as far as I know, yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm up here in Michigan right now, and I'm pretty sure I saw 6 alligators today. So
you think this is all some sort of ducktail?
Yes. I think I don't know where we're going with that one, Paul. Sorry.
That was it. That was the whole joke, DuckTales.
Oh, okay. But
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Woohoo! So is this when I start just talking like Scrooge McDuck all the time? Is that
please don't. Please continue with your
Never
theory.
Mind. Okay. So anyway, so I think Kevin is the instigator here. I think Kevin is purposely doing this. I mean, how do you accidentally build basically an altar of bones, and then also cut open your hand and in front of a pentagram carved into the earth in a cemetery? And then not only that, but he seems pretty chill with this whole turning all of the sinners into or what's the quote? A legion of the damned. This is either a new USA show or it's some skeleton shit going on here.
Interesting.
I'm imagining a legion. I just love imagining a legion of the damned because that just sounds cool as hell. But
yeah,
I'm imagining they're definitely skeleton people, right?
Okay.
Like animate skeletons.
Yeah.
And they all are wearing at least leather jackets. Maybe some of them are wearing World War II souvenir jackets.
I could get behind that. Yeah.
Like post, the ones with like the tigers and crud embroidered on the back, right?
Yeah, so what do you think is the impetus of the show, though? Where does it end?
With the world burning around Kevin, I assume.
Wow. I mean, what about the drunken welfare man? Though, does he
This
factor in,
is
or
a
is he...
Fight Club sort of situation, Paul.
Oh, interesting. I like it.
And the duck is the other side of Kevin, fleeing from the darkness inside of him.
So, John, what is the first rule of Kevin, then?
Righteous, not indignation, what was it? Righteous retribution is the first rule of Kevin. The second rule of Kevin is righteous retribution.
I like it.
And the third rule of Kevin is no shirts, no shoes,
Legion of the Damned.
No something. Legion of the Damned. Skelebros. All right.
I like it. I like your theory, John. I don't know which of ours is more likely to be true, though. But
I'm pretty sure mine is.
Yeah, yours is probably right. So can you give us a quick summary, then, of what you think the show is about?
The show is about Kevin being an asshole. Because he kind of seems like, what is it, a Mr. Bill?
Oh, Mr. Bill. Yeah,
Mr. Bill. Yeah, it seems like that, except I have a feeling like instead of him being crushed at the end of the cartoon, it's everyone around him.
You know, that's damned possible. And I do hate Kevin for some reason, so it sounds right.
I think it's the face. I think the face is what makes me hate him.
Except the eyes. The eyes are so expressive.
Yes, very expressive, deep eyes.
I mean, they're really the window to the Kevin.
Yeah. I feel like the goose guy also has very expressive eyes.
He actually kind of does. The fear
so
that...
maybe that's the connection between him and Kevin. Maybe Kevin has his eyes.
Whoa. It's too deep, John. We gotta keep it rolling, though.
Okay. So, in terms of the summary, like, what do you think this show is about, Paul?
I think it's a classic struggle between good and evil, or in this case, more drunken welfare man versus easily enslaved Kevin, who is basically evil. I don't really know much beyond that, but I think it's going to have a classic showdown between good and evil, between a drunk guy and a child possessed by an evil alligator. Okay. It doesn't get, more classic than that.
So now recommendations, Paul.
Oh yeah, I want to watch the rest of this. I want to recommend it. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
You love it.
The first time I've ever recommended anything on this show, I think.
I think so. You're not an easy person to please, apparently. Nope. If this show is any indication of that.
Oh, it is.
So I want to recommend it too. I think this was very strange, and I want to know where this goes. I actually may literally have this in the background while playing PUBG later tonight.
Oh yeah, that'll be excellent.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be fantastic.
It's our first dual recommendation for anything, and I think that's great.
2 thumbs up, righteous retribution,
righteous.
The Minute Podcast.
You're gonna put that on the YouTube comments for this one.
Yeah.
As if we couldn't add our own YouTube comments. I don't know. Okay. Well, yes. I guess we should really thank Robert for getting what this podcast is about with this submission.
Yes, Robert is skilled at selecting things for this podcast.
Absolutely is. So a big thank you to Robert for recommending this minute, which was a lot of fun. If you want to support the podcast, you can review us on iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts. Reach out to us at theminutepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @MinutePod or on Facebook by searching Minute Podcast. It'll probably come up. This episode, as always, was hosted by John Ward and Paul Reberg, produced by John Ward with theme music by Paul Reberg. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Holy crap, you made it to the end. We'll be back next week to do it all again. Until then, be well and be sure to take a minute. The Minute Podcast. 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 The Minute Podcast.